You're listening to the Informal Mystic Podcast, your destination for mind-bending conversations that explore metaphysics, energy medicine, and the mysteries of the universe. I'm your host, Blair McDaniel. You guys, guess who's back with another solo podcast? It's me. It's Blair. I am so floored at how much resistance I had to the idea of doing these solo podcasts and how much fun the last one was. I had so much fun. I feel like I was really able to just very clearly express my thoughts, my ideas, and really very accurately and clearly tell my story about how I found the quantum field, how I found my own quantum connection, and the tools that I'm offering you and us, just as a collective community of Informal Mystic, how to reach your own quantum connection. And so I wanted to come on here and do the same thing for my other offering, right? So last episode, we were talking about the quantum experience, which is my day retreat. That's going to be really, really placing a high priority on getting you connected in the quantum field, teaching you the quantum breath, teaching you what to look for, how to overcome your blocks, 4 ways that you are already, maybe experiencing a blockage. And then also kind of segueing you into this idea of joining Haven Inner Circle in the fall so that you can have that community support. And I am doing more than one thing at a time. I'm doing 3 things right now, which is not necessarily good business sense. But what I'm understanding about my business is that these specific things are going to be long-term offerings, right? I'm going to offer them over and over and over again. They're going to sort of shift and grow and evolve and change. And I'm just really, really excited about these offerings. And so instead of doing one thing at a time, I'm just going to freaking send it. I'm just going to send it now and really clear all the crap that's in my way of understanding and identifying as a successful person. No matter how full or empty or, moderately filled these offerings become. And I'm just really trying to clear it all. I'm just trying to clear it all now so that I can offer you all more and better, higher levels of service. And so I'm doing this by really just kind of checking all of the things off at once, right? So I'm launching on September 12th, I'm launching Mystic Mastery, my apprenticeship program. September 21st is my day retreat. And then October 24th is when Haven Inner Circle starts. And so back to back to back. And I don't know why I didn't think of this longer form content being a real avenue for marketing. I am still learning, I think. I am really still learning how to market my business well. And here's the deal. If you are a business owner and if you are, offering these gifts, offering these connecting points to the world, it is absolutely your responsibility to market them well enough that people can access them, right? A long time ago, when I joined my business apprenticeship in October of last year, so it wasn't really that long ago, but October of last year, I was sitting there and trying to decide if I was going to join this high-level mastermind, learning how to do business. I felt my guides kind of come to me and say, you have the gifts, and now you need to learn how to get people the gifts. This is a wise choice that you're making. Right? You can't learn and know how to do everything, and we want you to expedite the process. And so I joined that business apprenticeship, and I've learned how to market, how to sell offerings, and I've been doing that with my one-on-one programs for a really long time. I've been doing it since last October, and I've been selling my one-on-one for even longer than my time in the business mastermind that I'm in. But the whole point is that I am responsible for helping everyone understand what I'm doing here and why it's a good fit for them, right? And so I just wanted to sit and kind of play in the energy of this Mystic Mastery Apprenticeship program and kind of give you all a little bit of understanding of the origin story of why I'm doing this in the first place, of why this is a program that's going to be around for a while, and of why it may be a good fit or a good time for you all to join it. Okay, so let's, once again, the caveat, the disclaimer is always that I don't do short stories. And so you start a podcast episode, you're going to be hearing about my past. Most of the time I'm going to be talking about organized religion, yada, yada, yada. But you're going to be hearing a story. So I'll start this story sort of around the time that the other one, kind of left off a little bit. My time in organized religion was coming to an end. And my entire time during that ministry, and I'll add this about this ministry was so valuable for me. This ministry was so important for me. And I got so many tools. I learned about codependency patterning. I learned about, I learned the 12 steps. I learned all kinds of different things just participating in the ministry. And so it was a real sideways equipping. It wasn't necessarily all the way healthy, but my time in that ministry brought me so much awareness and so much, so many deepening and developing of gifts. I guided, I led people in that container. I led groups, and I led individuals, and I got to talk in front of a group of people, a gathering of people. And so I got, a lot of courage. And, so my time in ministry is always something I'm going to look back on and be just really appreciative of that being a stopping point or a little touch point along my journey, and all of the equipping it gave me. But at the end of the day, it was a rough ride. I was deep in codependency patterning. I didn't have anybody to tell me how to engage in ministry in a healthy way. My ministry leaders were also deep in their codependency patterning, lacking a lot of authenticity, lacking a lot of truth, a lot of capacity to be honest with one another. There was always this big secret about my participation in the ministry. I don't identify as a straight person. I identify as bisexual. And so some of them knew that. Not all of them knew that, but some of them knew that. The kicker, though, is that I'm in a monogamous marriage with my husband, and I have been since I was 19. And so I would say, I would be talking about sexuality, trying to help them expand their understanding of being LGBTQ, what it means to be LGBTQ, trying to help them see that it's not a threat. There's nothing wrong with it. You can be in church, you can even be in ministry, and it's fine. But there was always this hush hush. My ministry leader would come to me and she would always say, "Oh, I just wish I could tell you everything." Which, being a leader of people, a guide to people, I could never say that. That is just so toxic and so hurtful. And so I was under the assumption that was normal, and it was okay to have these secrets from the people you were with and working together with. And it's just really not. And so the ministry came to an end, and it came to a really abrupt end really quickly. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew the more anchored into myself I became, the more difficult it became to participate in that ministry. And there was a point in time where I was this doesn't fit. There's so many disparities in the things that we're teaching people and in the way that we're running this ministry. And so I asked the leader to meet with me. And I asked a mutual friend of ours to kind of mediate so that we could really, really be heard, right? I wanted to be heard. I wanted to hear her without being triggered, without us talking over one another. And so I just thought it would be helpful for there to be a third party there to kind of mediate and to help us talk to one another, because usually our conversations didn't go very well. And the irony is that we're guys, everyone needs to communicate. We need to learn how to communicate with the people we love. And we're over here not able to communicate. The hypocrisy was so real. And so at the end of this ministry, this conversation that we had, I was do you see how there are things that aren't really in alignment here? Do you see how your engagement with me as a person is oh my gosh, not super healthy, not super helpful? Do you see how the people in this ministry are looking at you and they're trying to perpetuate the things that you're doing? The things that you're doing aren't very healthy. And the conversation just went really, really sideways really quick. The mediator was not mediating. I don't know if you know what a mediator is. A mediator is a neutral third party to help the conversation flow, right? It's a translator. they never will add their opinion. And so I'm not sure if the mediator just didn't realize that she wasn't supposed to be adding her opinion, but she added her opinion, and she added it so hard. And so I'm just sitting there talking to her about what I'm thinking. And then the mediator hops in and she's like, well, what I'm hearing is a lot of immaturity. I'm hearing just you being very, very immature. And I was like, oh, okay, this is from left field. What the hell? Didn't expect this to happen. And so I'm activated, right? Like my body's activated. I'm, knees weak, palms sweaty. There was no vomit on my sweater. But I was like freaking out, because not only was I having a hard conversation with my leader, but now I was also having a hard conversation with the mediator, the neutral third party. And that was in air quotes. And so this neutral third party turned on me, and she was like, what I'm hearing is just a lot of immaturity. You're just immature. And I'm like, I probably was. Like, I am developing my maturity, but the act of me trying to have a conversation, a clarifying conversation with these people in my life, like, that's mature. That's like a really mature thing to do, for me to say, like, hey, things feel off to me and I want to clear it up. Right? It was mature of me to ask a third party to come on board to make sure that we could communicate with one another. That is an act of maturity. And so it was immediately red flags kind of going off in my body, activated, really, really tight immediately. And so after she is like, well, I'm just seeing a lot of immaturity within you. And after, I was communicating to her that my deepest desire was to help, people, help teach people, help lead people. And she turns on me and says, you're not leadership material because you're immature. If you're not willing to do the most menial tasks in our ministry, then we don't want you for the really important tasks or the things that you're perceiving as really important. And, so then the plot thickens even further, right? That was damaging, damaging avenue of conversation, number one. But number two is that she then started criticizing the way I taught and the way I guided people. And I had a friend in the ministry at the time. We'll call her Jill. We'll call this friend Jill. And this mediator who had turned on me, we can call her, meta name's Betty. Okay, so Betty was talking to me, and Betty said, Jill can teach circles around you. Jill can teach circles around you. She's such a good teacher, and she can teach circles around you. And man, that was so hard to hear. That may have been the most difficult part of the entire conversation, was for me to hear her compare me to my friend, my ministry friend. I was very, very close with her at the time. We've kind of lost touch, but I was very, very close with her at the time. And for her to take that and take that connection and put a wedge in the middle of it, and then for her to just kind of dig the knife in a little bit deeper by saying that she could teach circles around me. Oh my gosh, that was so painful. That was so freaking painful. And so I'm just sort of sitting there what is going on? What in the freaking Twilight Zone is going on? What in the freaking Twilight Zone is going on? I can't even handle this crap. And I immediately, after that, I was like, this conversation's not doing anything for me. I'm actually really, really activated by the things that you're saying. These are very hurtful things that you're saying, right? You're hurting me when you're saying these things. And I need to pause. I need to pause this conversation. And walked out of the room that I was having that conversation with those leaders in, walked into the parking lot, and I made it into the parking lot. I held my head high until I got to the parking lot, and then I just broke down. I broke down. And that was the moment where I really began questioning my ability to lead and ability to guide people and my ability as a teacher, right? Oh my gosh. I would hear her voice regularly whenever I wanted to go and teach something, whenever I would get a new one-on-one client. I'm just hearing a lot of immaturity in what you're saying. And this person can teach circles around you, right? The implied thing is that I just wasn't a good teacher. And oh my gosh, the reclamation work I've had to do In the early days of my business, I mean, it wasn't that early, maybe like a year and a half ago, a beautiful, beautiful soul by the name of Sarah Beth. That's her real name. I didn't give her an alias. Sarah Beth, and she has Sacred Rose Medicinals. She invited me to come into her energy, and at her building, at her place of where she runs her business, Sacred Rose in New Albany, Indiana. She does acupuncture. She does all kinds of things. So check her out. I'll put her in the show notes too. But Sarah Beth, who's so sweet, and me just being in her energy was so healing. She invited me to come and teach this class series that I was calling You're Already There. And I use a lot of the things that I taught in this class series still. Like I'm still talking about ego development. I'm still talking about becoming an observer. I'm talking about shadow work. I'm talking about manifestation and belief and all of these things these are really like core tenets of my programs, of my medicine. And Sarah Beth was like, hey, like I love what you're doing on Instagram. I want you to come and be part of my stuff. Like I want you to teach this class series. And it was so beautiful. It was so healing for someone to like, okay, not only someone, but someone who was sort of my elder to come alongside me and say like, hey, I see you. I see what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Right. And then like, I believe in you so much that I want you here and I want you teaching my people. And so I remember walking in, the very first class that I ever taught, I remember walking in and oh my gosh, it was like this holy experience. I was kind of by myself and just reflecting on like how I got from where I was, just like sitting in that room, really like shook to my core, listening to someone I respected, to someone I loved. Again, this was my elder. Tell me that I wasn't good at teaching. Tell me that I was very immature, right? Man, that shook me to my core. And so I walk into this holy space, this space where we're learning about spirituality, where we're learning about connection, where we're healing our bodies, healing through alternative medicine, healing through energy, and to be valued and honored as a teacher. Oh my gosh, it was just so beautiful, so healing. And the entire time I was like, you know what? Like I am a good teacher. Like I just can't not teach. It's part of my DNA. It's part of my bones. I have to teach. And so that day was a real like clearing of that trauma, a clearing of that experience of her not believing in me, not believing. And so fast forwarding to today, let me link this story to my point. Been talking about it for 20 minutes now. Maybe y'all ready for me to get to the point. My medicine is so geared to one-on-one healing that the teaching component is just not really there a whole lot. And so as I shift into these groups in the fall, I'm going to be getting so many more opportunities of just like long stretches of teaching, right? I just love teaching. I love giving you my wisdom. There's some kind of soul purpose energy in my capacity to teach you. And so in Haven Inner Circle, it'll be this like very loose, unstructured path of learning and teaching and healing together. In Mystic Mastery, my whole goal is to teach you the things that I know that have given me this vibrant, grand experience of being alive, right? Oh my gosh, like these things that I want to teach you guys are the very things that got me out of church, that got me out of codependency, that got me into a space of loving all people, into a space of detachment, into a space of confidence. And I mean, there's probably, I mean, these are the core things, right? These 6 months that I'm going to have you all in Mystic Mastery are these core things that I learned that really shifted things for me and really kicked this life into something that is totally fun and really worth living. Right? Excuse me. Right. So what I want to do now is pivot slightly. And I want to talk to you guys about the first few months of what we're going to be talking about in Mystic Mastery. And so this will be a little bit like teaching feeling, right? I'm not going to be storytelling. I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. Okay. And so month number one starts on September 12th, right? We're going to be having an experiential moment in the very beginning of our time together. And month one is going to be a cacao circle, and we're really going to be anchoring into this energy of consciousness as the all, consciousness as the raw material of the universe, energy as the animating force of all things. Okay. And why this is important is I needed to realize that I am God. I am powerful. I am accessing the all, right? And here's another thing I want to talk to you about. This is something that is sort of prevailing in my medicine. In the absence of a English language that really encapsulates what I'm trying to say, a lot of what I say lives in the body, right? The awareness will land in the body and you'll feel a resonance. You'll say, okay, yeah, I don't know why I know what you're talking about, but I feel like I do, right? And I see it happen in real life. I'll be in a quantum insight session, or I'll be in an actual session, or I'll even be at Haven and I'll say something. I'll be like, yeah, you are the same energy as me. And there'll be like a look that comes on someone's face, and you can kind of see their mind rolling it around and like not really totally getting it. But then something will land in the body and they'll say, oh, okay, there's something here, right? And so a lot of times in the absence of language, I'm using imagery, like sort of stories or parables, or it's like this, or I'll just say the thing and trust that if you don't understand now, it will become easier to access once it lands in that body and makes its way really kind of into your DNA, right? Into your DNA and into your your personhood, your selfhood. And so that very first theme we're going to be talking about is consciousness as the raw material of the universe. Okay. If you've been in Haven with me, if you've come to a Haven, or if you've been in session with me before, you know that there is a part in the tool that I use called Unity, which is like my energy healing, like we're pulling in these energies, and we're accessing the quantum field. And the first energy we call in is earth energy. Earth energy comes through the feet, and it lands in the heart chakra. And then the second energy is this pure white source consciousness, and it comes through the crown chakra and it goes down the upper chakra system and lands in the heart chakra too. All the energy lands in the heart chakra. And so source energy, pure white, undifferentiated source energy is what we're going to be talking about. And the idea is, and again, this is hard to explain, and so I'm just going to say it's like there's a big blob of energy out there. There's like a origin point. There's not really an origin point, but for our linear time understanding, for the way that humans think, there is a blob of energy out there. Okay. And so this blob of energy was like, oh man, like I have no framework for what I am. I have no framework for what I'm not. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know how to be. And so what this blob of white, pure white energy did was it created something. It took itself and was like, maybe if I like squish this here, mold this there, I'm going to give it an arm, and I'm going to give it a leg. I'm going to give it like a face. Okay. And voila, something has been created, right? And the creation has its own consciousness. Every creation has a form of its own consciousness because it was formed from consciousness, right? And so consciousness is just becoming different shapes, just becoming different things. Any kind of creation is consciousness, and what happens is it becomes a fractal, okay? And so if we're talking about the path from source to human being, right? Human creation, which is what we all are, unless you're like an alien listening to this. And then, you'd be like an extraterrestrial S being or whatever. You have a slightly different path, maybe not. But the path from source to being looks like source took a piece of itself, created a piece of itself and was like, I want to become something else. I want to become something to give me a framework for what I am and what I'm not. And so it took a piece of itself off and then it created a soul. Okay. Excuse me. It created a soul. Okay. And so the soul is also what I'll call the higher self. Okay. So the higher self then is created, and the higher self has a higher understanding of what being created means. Okay. And so the higher self understands that it's source. The higher self understands that it is consciousness, right? And so what the higher self does is say, I want to become something else, right? I want to create something from my material, my raw material. And so what the higher self will do is take a piece of its consciousness, take a piece of itself, and sort of imbue that self into a human body, into a human being, right? And so it is one further removal from source consciousness. And this is why it is a fractal. Okay. If you've never seen a fractal, what I want you to do is I want you to pause the podcast if you can, if you're not driving, and then go look up what a fractal is. Okay. Fractalization is a really fancy way of what I'm talking. That's like a fancy way to describe what I'm talking about, but it's such an accurate and intentional way to talk about what I'm talking about. Right. And so you zoom in and this process recreates itself and recreates itself and recreates itself and recreates itself. Okay. And so down here on the human level, this is so freaking cool. So exciting for me to talk about, because I actually don't think I've ever talked about this in public before. What happens is we decide, hey, I want to create something. And we take a piece of our consciousness and put it, we take a piece of our consciousness and we put it into things. Now, did your mind just blow? Because when I first realized what we were doing down here in the human realm, my mind was like, what? My consciousness in these things I'm creating, right? So if you write a book, if you create social media, if you create a business, if you, there's just so many ways that this process takes place. When you create art, when you tell a story, when you create a podcast, what you're doing is you're taking a piece of your consciousness and you're imbuing it into this creation of yours. And the process is repeated. Right? And then when people consume that content, and they have emotions or they have a thought or an experience with that content, that creation, whatever it is that they're consuming of yours that you've created, they will have an additional conscious experience. That consciousness has created a new form or new experience of consciousness. And so the fractalization process continues eternally, right? And so, it could even we are kind of zoomed out, right? We're kind of like a big example on the human plane of what's taking place. But maybe if we were to look at it energetically, if we zoomed into the creations, what would they look like? Maybe they would look like little human beings, right? It's all just a symbology. It's all just okay, I don't know if you've ever heard, there's two phrases. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm, and the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. And basically what that is the process of fractalization. The things that are happening in your very tiny day-to-day lives are the things that are happening on the collective scale, like the grander scale. The things that are happening on the grander collective scale are the things that are happening in the earth collective scale. The things that are happening in the earth collective scale are the things that are happening in the universal collective, right? And so you can zoom in eternally and you can zoom out eternally, and you'll see the same patterns repeating over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what we call dimensional reality, right? When these patterns are creating one another, when they're in constant flux and in constant creation, it's dimensions. It's dimensional reality, up and down, right? It's zoomed in and zoomed out, and every aspect is a dimension. And so, I don't know. Are you all following? Are you tracking? Is this making any sense? You can't answer. But if this is feeling any kind of way in the body, sit with it, pull it in, and just allow it to kind of marinate and see if this is something you want to keep pursuing, right? An understanding that you want to keep pursuing. Because this is the kind of stuff that really, man, it compels me. It compels me. It keeps me going. It keeps me, like, oh gosh, just so excited about being alive, about doing this work. So excited. Okay. So this is the first month. We're going to be talking about consciousness. We're going to be talking about how it forms, how it is, how it's literally everything and nothing at the same time. How the best way to describe it is like the all, right? The all. Everything is this thing. And this is really the gateway to quantum connection. When you understand that the quantum field is the animating force of reality, then you can pop in and pop out really easily because you are it too, right? It's not other than you. It's all you. You're a little tiny universe contained in a body, right? And so the quantum connection is served by this idea that consciousness or energy or God, whatever you want to call it, source, is everything. Source is the all. Okay. And so that's month number 1. That's what we're going to be doing in the first month. The idea of past or alternate lives is going to be really helpful here because you can kind of swing back and forth along your soul's timeline in a much more malleable fashion because you understand what you're doing. You understand that there's a soul having human experiences for its expansion and for its growth. Right? And so the homework of the first month is going to be really sitting with this idea of alternate lives, pulling one in that will help you clear, help you heal, help you understand this better, and just kind of sitting with that. So month number 2, we're going to be talking about another thing that just, oh my gosh, lights my soul on fire. And we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but it is this idea that there is nothing specific. There is no actual thing. Everything is a frequency. Everything holds a resonance. Everything is a vibration. Okay. And so this is kind of out, like, again, this is really out there, right? Again, this is like not something that people really talk about at all, but this is the stuff that helps me get so free and so confident and so empowered. And so I really want to invite you all, and really want you all to engage in this really elevated pattern of thinking. We won't even call it really elevated. Let's call it this deep interior way of thinking. Although it's both, it can't be one or the other. It's non-duality, right? It is both. And so it's this internal pushing into the subconscious, and it's this expansive universal flow of mental connection, right? You're thinking thoughts that go in and out. And so this idea that everything is a frequency, right? Everything is a frequency is so beautiful and connecting. Okay. Consciousness as the all, consciousness as a life force or an animating creative reality is so connecting too, because we understand that we are one another, right? Like I'm you, you're me at the grandest level. And, when we reincorporate into source, we'll be like, oh, that was so freaking fun. Let's do that again. Right. Or it won't be like we, because it'll just be one thing, the all. It'll be like, I know exactly what I am now because I've become every single possible thing there is to be. And I know what I am, and I know what I'm not, right? And so once it does that, I mean, it's a constant reincorporation and rebirth over and over and over again, eternally. And there is no linear time. And so that is a great pathway, a great avenue to one another. You can no longer be mad at people when you realize that they're you too, and that all you all are doing is just having experience after experience after experience to understand what you are and understand what you're not, right? It really takes the heat off of every experience, because if there is an experience, source must do it. Source must experience it. And so every experience, the one that you're living and the one that you are watching and judging, they all serve the same purpose. And the purpose is source knowing itself, having self-awareness, knowing what it is and what it isn't, right? Knowing what we are and what we aren't. And so that's such a gathering feeling, a gathering effect. The second month, we're going to be shifting into that frequency state. And this is also a deeply gathering effect, because a unifying effect, because you hold every frequency within you as a facet of consciousness, as consciousness itself. You have access to every single frequency that there is. Okay. And so when you look out and you see somebody who is being harmful to another person, you have this knee jerk to judge it, right? But what I want to challenge you is that you hold that frequency within you too. It just may exist at another dimension. It may exist at a more less manifested dimension, right? So maybe you harm others in a very subtle way, whereas some people will allow that to manifest into their physical reality, right? And so you can find that piece of you that holds that frequency. You can pull it up and you can be like, oh, okay, that's what that is. That's what that is. And so what the beauty of this frequency is that there's nothing that's beyond you. There's nothing that's beyond you, right? A great example of the idea of frequency is tarot or oracle, right? What you're doing is you're laying out these cards, and a lot of times it's like your guides are connecting with you, and the card that you draw is indicative of a frequency. Okay. And so you draw the death card, and I would say 95% of the time your guides aren't like, bro, you about to die, right? Guides aren't like that. My guides have never been like that, ever. My mind will go, oh no, the death card, and get real dramatic about it. But a lot of times when I draw the death card, it's not physical death. It is the frequency of death in my life. It is a relationship coming to an end. It is needing to transition pieces of my business. It is something else that is just kind of naturally coming to a close, right? And so the frequency of death can be found all over the place. And so you draw another card, and the card is we'll say the Tower, right? And the Tower is this intense, very, the Tower's not a good one because I don't even know what I don't do tarot, but let's do the Hanged Man instead. Okay. So the Hanged Man is like this upside down man in tarot, and he's real, indicative of things are not right. Things are upside down. Things have gone off the track, right? And so there are so many different examples of this frequency in the world. And so you draw the Hanged Man card, and it could be that you're not seeing things clearly in your romantic relationship and that you may need to break up with this person. You draw the Hanged Man card, and it could be that something is going haywire in your business, and you're not able to see clearly because you're upside down, right? It could be that you need to find a therapist. It could be that you need to journal more and get a perspective that's upright, right? And so the frequency is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about finding yourself upside down in, a tree or whatever, because that's what the card looks like. I'm talking about this idea of being upside down, in emotionally, mentally, maybe physically, but these are all examples of this frequency playing out in our lives. Like birth is a frequency. It doesn't always mean physical birth. It can mean, like a new program I'm launching. It could be a new relationship. It could just be, I feel free in a new way, and I feel excited to be alive, right? There's all kinds of examples of frequency playing out everywhere in your life, okay? And when we do this whole archetypal exploration of frequency, then we understand that there is nothing beyond us. There is nothing beyond us. We pull it all in, we sit with it all, and we understand that the people that we judge are a frequency that we do too, right? It's just they've gone further. They've allowed it to manifest. They've really, really anchored into this frequency. And we are doing that in ways that maybe they aren't, right? And so for me, I have manifested physically this idea of birth. I've birthed a child, right? I carried a child for 9 months and birthed this child into the world. And maybe somebody else who is carrying a more subtle frequency of birth hasn't, right? And there's like nothing wrong with either end of the frequency. These are all just experiences we're having. This is all source having the experience of frequency and vibration in all things, right? And so, gosh, frequency is this great unifying force. And it really does help us understand that nothing's beyond us. Nothing's outside of our ability to experience. Okay. And so from frequency, we're going to pivot slightly in the third month, and we're going to be talking about one of my ultimate all-time favorite things, non-judgment and love. Non-judgment and love. I would say that I really began my exploration of non-judgment and love when I was a Christian, or like participating in Christianity. Jesus, the Christ, and Christ energy, which, I could probably, do a whole podcast about Christ energy. But that was when I really began to be compelled by this idea of non-judgment. The more I understood what the Christ was doing, the more I wanted to do what he was doing. The more I wanted to experience and explore connection and love and non-judgment the way he was doing. And so, oh my gosh, like this is such a huge facet of my work. I had some experiences of betrayal in my past where I sort of reached this like crucible energy, right? Like I was like, I have two options. I can learn to love this person who I desperately, deeply love. I can learn how to quit judging these things about this person that are very alarming and triggering in my body, or I can just abandon them altogether. Those are my two choices. And since I was not in the business of abandonment, and since I have never seen the Christ, I was deeply, deeply ensconced in Christianity during this betrayal. But since I had never seen the Christ, who as I was obsessed with, I would read the Gospels over and over and over again just to learn about Jesus. And since I had never seen him judge or abandon anyone, I knew that it was my responsibility to do the inner work to accept that stuff, right? And it was like the ultimate shadow work, because if I accepted their darkness, the darkness of the person that I loved so, so deeply, then I had just set a new precedent for my own inner experience. I could no longer judge me either, right? And so it propelled me down this path of self-love by sort of forcing me to love and incorporate things that were not culturally acceptable, things that were not okay to accept. I was just determined I would learn how to do it because I didn't want to abandon this person. I promised I wouldn't, and I wasn't going to, and I didn't. So the third month will be learning how to pull in these things that are deeply triggering and find a path, find an avenue of love for these things. And here's the beauty of how this program is going to play out. The first 2 months, understanding that we're all consciousness, understanding that everything is a frequency will get you further along your path to loving it all anyway, right? It's hard to be mad when you identify as that being or that person at the ultimate soul level, right? The source consciousness, or like pure white, undifferentiated source energy, that is the ultimate higher self, right? We pull our creative force back up the dimensional spectrum and we land back in the higher self, right? And so if we're thinking of creation or consciousness as a fractalization, you can kind of think of it like a lightning bolt or like a family tree, right? And so this level of dimension creates this level of dimension, and like there'll be like little offshoots, right? And so this level of dimension will create more offshoots, and this level of dimension will create even more offshoots. And like down at the bottom, there's bajillions of creation, and at the top, there's not that many. And so we just slowly wind our way back up the path, and we meet all of the higher selves along the way. Like, oh, hey, 5th dimension Blair. Oh, hey, 7th dimension Blair. Oh, hey, 9th dimension Blair. Oh, hey, 12th dimension Blair. So nice to meet all of you guys as I like accordion back up into source, the ultimate higher self. And so if all of us have this as our source, all of us have this as the ultimate higher self, then how can you hate that which you are, right? How can you hate that which you identify as at the ultimate level? And so frequency is what really kind of attunes you to the real life experiences of being alive and finding another path to identifying, right? And so month 1 builds on month 2. Month 2 builds into month 3, where we learn to release and to love. And people get real flustered by the idea of love. People don't want to love their enemies or any, it's a lot to love, right? But when I say that finding my path to non-judgment is the most freeing thing I've ever done, I'm totally serious about that, right? I say this a lot. I kind of say it tongue in cheek, but it's true. Everything that I've ever done, all of these months, I did as an act of nihilism. I want to feel better. I want to feel better. And so these three stepping stones along my path were the main 3 things that made me feel better, right? Learning about the all, learning that we're all one, learning that we're all the same thing, learning that I hold every single frequency within me. And that if all I do is learn the frequency, then I can learn acceptance for the person demonstrating the frequency in a more acute fashion. And if I can just love and forgive and accept everyone and not let anybody abuse me, right? I'll have boundaries. I won't let people, crap on me, but I'll be okay if they do. Right? I'll be okay if somebody harms me or hurts me or tries to hurt me, because I understand what happened. And it's just this ultimate vibration of forgiveness. It's this ultimate vibration of acceptance, and really watching something without needing to change it. Acceptance is love, right? And that's what source is. That's all source is. That's all we are at our truest selves, is just this big watcher, this big witness of all that can be, of all that is. Okay. And so love is really just watching someone and honoring their experience with what they're doing and what they're having. And I've gotten to the point in my own personal practice where I can say hey, thank you for having an experience that I don't prefer, right? Source clearly wants to experience this. You have chosen this path at the soul level and the source level, and I don't prefer it. And so thank you for doing something that I don't prefer, right? Because it needs to be done. It needs to be done. And so, these are our first 3 months of Mystic Mastery. And I am so excited to teach you all these things in a deeper format, a deeper fashion, and to really make them real. right? And so this is how we find our Zen. This is how we become people who are just kind of unruffled, right? This is how I found my way from deep, deep, deep emotional attachment and into freedom, into autonomy, into this like really impenetrable joy in all circumstances and in all things. And gosh, I would just love to invite you into this experience. And here's the deal. So when I first launched the marketing for Mystic Mastery, I was keeping it really tight. I was keeping it for my one-on-one clients who have like had some experience with me before. But I think that I'm going to open that up because I have space still. And I have new people in it. And so the distance between where you are and where I feel like you need to be part of Mystic Mastery is a problem that I'm going to have to solve anyway. And so if that means we have to do more, one-on-one session work, if that means we have to do like some additional trainings to get you all really anchored in and really feeling the quantum connection and feeling really empowered, then that's just what we'll have to do. And so I am feeling more compelled to kind of open it up to everyone and see if this is something that you're interested in. Okay. And so, I think it would be helpful to point out why I'm actually doing these things. One is just that I freaking love to teach, right? Again, nihilism, love to teach, want to teach all of these really cool things. Number two, if you want to become a quantum energy therapist, a healer, an energy healer, a person who is responsible and ethical in their spirituality. If you just want to know how to have a deeper connection, this is a pathway. This is how you do. And additionally, there's like this communal aspect that I'm really, really excited to pull in for us. Because, oh my gosh, life can be so lonely when you are talking about your guides all the time and nobody talks to guides. My husband is like used to it by now, right? But when I first started this, he was like, what the fuck kind of Kool-Aid is she drinking? Like, this is a lot, right? And so, community is a beautiful side effect of this. Just real stability in the self, right? This is going to give you real stability in the self. This is going to be that transcendent vibration of equanimity, which is just like okayness. You'll be okay no matter what happens when you can master these three things, right? And then the last 3 months, which I'm going to talk about in another podcast because I'm coming up on 50 minutes. The last 3 months are going to be, we're going to be talking about earth energy. We're going to be talking about extraterrestrial energy, and we're going to be talking about divine masculine and divine feminine balance. And so those last 3 months I'll put in a part 2 and really kind of explore that in that podcast setting, probably tomorrow or something. But really excited to invite you into that as well. And we're really creating that sturdy foundation for any lived experience you want. And then we're going to be talking about what energy is, energy as such, and just really getting very anchored into it all. So excited to invite you in. What I want to do is I'm going to put a opportunity to chat with me about whether or not this is a good fit for you in the show notes. It's going to be just like a quick 30-minute chat to see if it's something that you are feeling compelled to do. And if it is, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So go to the show notes or you could probably go to my social media. There'll probably be a link there. And if you want to chat with me about whether Mystic Mastery is a good fit for you, about whether these really high, deep experiences and ideas are calling to you and kind of compelling you forward into the next stage of your life, get with me and let's explore this together. So again, go to the show notes, head to my social media. Instagram is my main one, but I'm on TikTok and Facebook too. And go to my website,